Hey.
Hey, good afternoon for me. Good morning to you.
Yes.
Yes, it's great to see you this week.
Thank you.
Oh, it's wonderful out here. The weather is beautiful. And I don't usually have the Edmonton Oilers jersey out. I'm broadcasting from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. It's Doug Smith. And Laurie, you're broadcasting from.
Drayton Valley, Alberta,
So
Canada,
we're
West Coast.
separate. We're separated by a few hundred miles, a few thousand miles.
Mm-hmm.
But Edmonton Oilers brought us together, so they're doing fantastic. So I put my Edmonton Oilers jersey on. I actually did a conference call the other day, presentation, and I wore it. And then after the presentation, I went outside on the street just when my neighbors were outside, and some of them were like, "Oh, you got an Edmonton Oilers jersey?" I said, "Yeah, it's mine. It's mine. I
I
played for
own it.
the Edmonton Oilers." They're like,
What?
"What?" So a lot of the people around me, it's just too hard for them to conceive that they know me and I played for the Oilers, and it makes their
Mm-hmm.
head explode. But anyways,
Right.
it's fun. I could probably set up a table anywhere, right, at any mall with my
Yeah.
jersey. I was
Yeah.
thinking about that and just sign stuff, just sit there and
Yeah.
sign stuff for people.
Especially if they take the cup.
Oh, they'd be lined up.
Oh my God. Yes, exactly.
What a
Listen, I
it's
have a
crazy.
hockey question.
Yeah,
Okay. How long has it been since a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup?
35 years.
What?
Yeah, it's been a long, long
Holy.
time. I don't even know the last team that won it. Maybe the Calgary Flames. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. You're
Yeah,
kidding.
so the whole
Wow.
country's hungry. But the other thing I was concerned about more than anything, the last two Edmonton games weren't put up on CBC for me to watch with my rabbit ears because I don't have any video games. We don't have cable. We never had it with our kids growing up, and
Yeah.
and usually I could pick it up on CBC, but they blacked out the last two Edmonton games, and I'm like, are you crazy,
Kidding
CBC?
me?
Are you nuts? You put a comedian like up on there that everybody in Canada hates that comedian now, okay? Because
Oh,
because the game
yes.
was supposed to be on.
Right.
And I can't for the life of me understand who's making those decisions, but at least put another sport on so you can satisfy the people who all lined up to watch the game with their rabbit ears. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so that's I'm just just
Wow.
I'm
So
just
weren't
venting
they
on you.
the big Hockey Night in Canada producers? Like, they were the ones that
I
that's all
just
we had when I was a kid were two channels
well, yeah,
and
4
never
and
missed a
13.
game. And
Yeah,
never missed a game.
that's right. And yet they black it out just on a whim. I don't know, maybe and this is what I hypothesize is they're measuring the negative response to that so they can see how many more subscribers they got, right? Because
Yeah.
I was thinking of subscribing when I couldn't get in just to watch the game. I can't
Right.
imagine how many other people subscribed, like paid for a
Mhm.
month to watch one game.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably some type of business strategy or something.
Yeah. Well, though our dear friend Sylvia Somerville in Grimsby, Ontario, vandals cut the fiber optics for Cogeco. They did not have any internet for like from London, Ontario to Niagara Falls, Hamilton. The whole thing was shut down for 3 days.
Wow, that's
That's why
huge.
she wasn't at the summit.
Wow, that's right. So tell that the summit was amazing. I was there for about three quarters of it, but I
Yes,
mean,
you were.
and I presented, but maybe you could share with everybody, how that summit went because it was amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. So every 3 months, I host with a co host. We do a 3 day online event called Recovery and Performance. And we select speakers. We had 18 speakers who came on and shared a situation they were in, how they recovered, whether it was from childhood or mid teens or yesterday, how they got out of it to inspire our viewers and clients and contacts. And then the last 15 minutes they spend promoting how their life is today. So our next summit is September 6th, 7th, and 8th. So we usually keep a foundational group of 8 or 9 speakers who've done the summit and come back, and then we introduce new speakers. The other 9 are new speakers. So it was amazing. We had lots of beautiful feedback, and approximately about 54 people that, popped in or out, and not including the speakers. And it was just great. It was amazing.
You can't attend. The amazing thing about the event I've found is you can't attend a day in that event, 3 or 4 sessions or speakers without identifying with one of them or two of them or even
Oh, I know.
them. So the way that the stories are told, allows them to share, and identify with you so that you might consider getting it out of here and
Hmm.
get it out of here. Don't hold on to it for too long.
Yes. Well, on the third day, one of our speakers, first time he ever told a story, and he's a client of mine, and he just finished 9 out of the 10 workshop series that we do. And I didn't know this, but after every workshop that we did, he wrote a poem about it. So he shared his work, his literary, like this guy's a mechanic, okay? But he wrote about mending his heart, and the analogies he used were like as if he was fixing an engine in a vehicle, and how
Wow.
the pieces were on the table and how he put it back together, and it was all based on our process that we use to help people forgive themselves for stuff.
Wow. Because we
Yeah,
all
like
need to do that. We all need to
oh,
forgive ourselves for those things, right?
oh,
And it's
definitely.
the basis of my story, going from trying to be the best in the world to trying to be the best for the world.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like you still got to live with the fact that you were pounding people to get to be the best in the world, right? You still got to live with that fact. But
Right.
there's ways that we can manage it. It's okay, right? Don't hold yourself responsible and torture yourself
Yeah.
for no reason. So we
Yeah.
got
Well,
we got a guy
yeah.
who
Tell us
we
about
got
our guest.
Jacob coming on the show, and he played in the AHL for a few teams and played in Europe and in Finland, and but the remarkable thing about his story is he grew up in Riverside, California, and the monumental task to find ice in California, and the time of
Yes.
days and how far you had to travel, and
Wow.
to be able to love the game, love the process of sports so much, and like all players trying to make it to the top, there's situations in his life like in mine where you get whacked so hard emotionally it's almost impossible to get up, but you do. And Jacob has, and I'm looking forward to really getting to know him a lot better on the show today.
Beautiful. Well, we'll take a little 30-second break, and while that's happening, I'll bring him in. And this is an opportunity for you to consider if you have a product, a program, a service, a cause, a book, whatever, you can advertise on our show. So right now, we'll just give you that spot. There's nothing on the spot right now except snowflakes floating up in the air. And but that's to give you an idea that this is when you could have be featured. And last night, we have a bunch of our people on our facilitation team. They're going to do 30-second and 1-second clips. So I'll invite you, Doug, to book that in with me, so we can have those little clips available as well, and we can push them in there. And yeah, so here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Co-host Dr. Laurie Davis, over to our host Doug Smith to introduce our guest, Jacob Newton.
Yeah,
Over to you,
Doug
Doug.
Smith. Yeah, here from Ottawa, and I'm so glad and so thankful. Thanks for coming on the show today, Jacob. Look forward to getting to know you better. Where are you coming from today?
Well, first, before I get there, thank you guys so much for the opportunity to come on here. Feel very honored and humbled to be here with you both. I am currently residing in Cleveland, Ohio, so just across the lake from good old Ontario, Toronto.
And it's been a journey from Riverside, California, where you grew up, right? I mean, we're on a hockey. We're talking hockey today, and we're both very competitive athletes, professional athletes. but to me, after playing for the Kings in the early 80s, it's unimaginable that you could grow up and make it to the top, coming from, Southern California. So, I've read so much about you because it's hard to stop reading your story about, being in the car and getting an education in the vehicle.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, Riverside is where I played the most. It's actually not where I grew up. I grew up another 55 minutes southeast from Riverside in a small little town called San Jacinto, which is right next door to Hemet, if you've ever heard of Hemet.
Well, near Mission Viejo, no?
No. I was close to Palm Springs, actually, about 20 minutes.
Oh, you're going into the desert. Okay. Yeah. Laurie was just in Palm Springs not too long ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it was actually rated the 4th worst city in the whole state. So that's where I came from.
Okay. Good to know.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how did you get started with, was hockey something that was available to you or no, when you were growing up at the beginning?
Yeah. So I was actually born in Arizona, and immediately after we must have shot straight up to Canada. All my family, my mom, both my sisters and my oldest brother were all born in Leduc, Alberta. And so my younger sister and I were Irish twins. She was born 11 months after myself, and we were there for roughly three-ish years. And then to be closer to my to my grandma's illness, that's what brought us down to California into a town called Beaumont. So I would say that, being Canadian, if you don't love the game or play the game, then you probably, people view you as something's wrong with you. So it was just a part of our DNA, so to speak. And that small little town where I grew up, it was, 35 minutes to the closest highway, an hour and 15 minutes roughly to the closest ice rink. And so at that time, the early 90s, I was born in 88, but in the early 90s is when I started playing hockey, and ice hockey was obviously a thing, but it wasn't very popular quite yet. Obviously Gretzky coming in 88 certainly helped with that. But at that time, we weren't going to drive an hour to Riverside to play ice hockey. We're going to crush roller hockey. We started out in the street behind my house, getting all the kids around the area to come and join us. We got featured in the newspaper, the local newspaper, which was kind of cool. And then I played roller hockey until I was 11 before making the transition over to ice, which is what then brought me to Riverside, California.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. So you were on wheels before you were on blades?
Yeah, yep. For a long time too.
Wow. That's cool. So nobody knows, not many people, haven't told it on this show, but I had the first pair of inline skates, me and Steve Jensen, in 1981. They were prototypes built for us, and we were the first ones on the Strand in Los Angeles with them. We were going like 30 kilometers an hour and blowing by people. Like, it was just, they were chick magnets, those things in the
beginning. Yeah, that's awesome. I do a lot of rollerblading now. I'm sure, Doug, you might have heard, right, that rollerblading is going to have an impact on your stride in ice hockey. And sure, maybe when you're younger, but I don't have to carry about that anymore. Now I'm on my blades every day here in Cleveland, and I'm never taking them off. That's for sure.
Really? So after I broke my neck, it was my goal to get back to skating, and I did. And then I went in a race in Stittsville, Ontario, a road race on rollerblades. When I was 42, and I won the race by like 8 feet. There was like 300 people in the race, and it was like 12 kilometers. And I won. I finished first place. I was in the paper in the Stittsville News, and then I hung up I just said no more of that silliness. I remember I thought my heart was going to explode because I was working so hard, but anyways, that's my rollerblading story. I love rollerblading. I think it helped me play in the NHL. It helped me with a lot of things. It helps you with your brain.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So you played on a team in a league all year. How many games of hockey would you play on rollerblades in a season?
Oh, that's a wonderful question, Doug. I don't think I'd be able to even tell you. Maybe 50 to 60 lots of tournaments, primarily tournaments. And we were fortunate growing up too, because my family, my parents, we co-owned a roller rink in my hometown.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
And
that's
it was
cool.
called the Puck Hog. And it was 5 minutes from my house. So at that time, it was, of course, we went to school, but we didn't necessarily care about school. We wanted to see what we can do to manipulate my dad so that we could stay home. Dad, I'll vacuum the whole house if you let us stay home. We'd get that done in 30, 45 minutes. And then we're at the roller rink for the rest of the day. So it was.
And what about disco night? You must have had a disco night.
Yeah, there was another roll arena in my town where we had it was called the Skate and Fun Zone. Every Friday night we went there, the disco ball. And yeah, we were always like the ones, everybody had eyes on me and my brothers and sisters because we could skate well, and everybody's stumbling around. But yeah, certainly lots of good memories out there. But yeah, going back to the question, I would have to say in the 50 to 60 range, but I could be way off on that. I'm not sure.
And then you touch the ice. Okay, so you've been on rollerblades. You've probably been on the ice infrequently from time to time, right? But then you touch the ice to play hockey. Like, how much more advanced were you? Or were you more advanced than other people stepping into hockey?
So it was interesting because my first year of ice, I just played a year of like in-house rec league. So compared to those kids, yeah, certainly I was more established than they were because a lot of them, it was their first or second year in totality of ever playing the game, and I had 7 years of experience, 6 years of experience over them. So it was more just about adjusting what I had skill set wise in roller and bringing that into the ice, obviously getting used to the difference in stride, the different feeling underneath your feet. And once I got that, it was way more fun, a lot faster, could stop a lot easier.
Well, that's the thing is you must be better because you were able to accomplish the feat of playing hockey without the ability to stop. And it just happens that the game has been transformed into centrifugal force, right? If you're not using it out there and you're not using the ability to use your momentum, you're out of the game. You can't compete today.
Yeah. It's wild to think watching the NHL now and even back to when I had an opportunity at the NHL back in 2010, the way the game has transformed in just 14 years. I can't imagine where it's going to be by 2030 or 2035. Yeah.
Tell me about your experience in the AHL. I did have experience in the AHL because I got sent down by Buffalo to Rochester, and then I got sent down by Edmonton to Cape Breton. Both situations were my fault.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah. So,
go ahead.
It was after, I'd signed with Anaheim in 2010 after my freshman year at Northeastern.
Wow.
And up until that point, I was the go-to guy on every team I played on. Even though I'm a defenseman, I was offensive, and so it was very comfortable in that role. And then I got to the NHL and I was surrounded by guys that were the go-to guy on every team that they played on up until that point, and I remember I played one game preseason with Anaheim, scored a goal and an assist. I was like, I did it. I made it. This is it. This is my life now. Very next day, I got sent down to Syracuse to play with the Crunch. And when I got there, I was asked to assume a different role to a certain degree. Of course, allow my skill set to shine when I have the puck and when I'm in the offensive zone. But they wanted me to play more of a physical role.
I've seen it. Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
I never did that. I've never been taught how to properly, even give a check, let alone receive one, and I didn't need to because I'm a bigger guy, but I was always positionally sound, had a very good stick.
So they wanted you to attack. They wanted you to dig your edges in.
Yeah.
Yet you didn't have those edges.
No.
Oh, that there's your book, the edges, because the psychology fits. Hey, cool. And not cool, but it is cool. But I'm sorry it happened to you that way.
No, I'm completely at peace with it all. And the work that I do now is trying to help players with expanding the way they see themselves. So if I would have had an expansive mindset then, I could have understood that just like all the other skills that I had to learn and work at and be intentional with, just like I learned those, I could pivot and learn some other skills that are going to allow me to have longevity You know, I never dreamt of playing in Europe. I didn't even know there was hockey in Europe. I was so focused on the NHL, and I got there, and because I was lost in victimhood and blaming and complaining once they asked me that, I was so resistant. So if I could do it all over again, I would be like, okay, sure. I'm a big boy, 6'3", 210. All right, I'm just gonna try and see what happens, you know. And yeah, that was.
And be nice to everybody, right? And go along with a few people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know the feeling of not letting that happen.
Yeah, but you know, that's again, like I said, I'm at peace. I know now what my purpose is in this lifetime, and God was only ever going to bring me to the NHL just to help create a platform for myself so that I can do things like this and share my story, and that's all good with me.
And how long what countries were you? You were in Finland, but you were in other countries as well. And how did you fare with the language and the opportunity that you were faced with?
Yeah, so Finland, I was there the most. Incredible hockey there, playing in the top Finnish league, my favorite country. I also got a short stint in Sweden in the SHL there. Got cut very early in preseason, very unannounced or just unexpected, excuse me. But nonetheless, I don't need to get into that. And then the Czech Republic, Italy, Germany, and Norway. Norway was my final year.
Okay, when in Italy, where were you? Bolzano or?
Just my apartment that year overlooked Bolzano. My first year over was the shortened season, 2012.
Yeah.
And I was set to go to camp with San Jose. The season never started. My agent at the time, Elaine Waugh, had asked me, would you have any interest in going over to Europe? And I said, I've never thought about it. I mean, I'll listen if there's something there. And then I got an offer in the second Italian league. Wow. And I didn't even know there was a first Italian league. So I go from an NHL contract to the second Italian league, and got player of the year. We won the championship that year. It was incredible. But I remember very vividly, I don't know, on 4 or 5 different occasions after practices, because we practiced at like 8 o'clock at night because every other player on my team, except for our goalie, had a normal job. And then hockey was their hobby. A lot of them didn't get paid. Some of them got paid for gas, and that was it. Mm-hmm. You know, so they weren't being as intentional as I was in terms of, this is my career. I'm practicing it daily, you know? And so I would be taking a knee with my goalie. He lived below me, and I'm watching some of these guys, and I love them all. Great, winning the championship, but some of them are tripping over themselves. And I'm just like, where did I go wrong? What happened? NHL contract this? And then I understood, point the finger at myself. I have been the problem all along, but I'm also the solution. And that's when I started diving into mental toughness books and whatnot.
Wow. So that there was a switch there for you.
Yeah. And it still wasn't even the deepest switch I would go through, but it was enough to get me to understand that I have so much more power within me. And if I can start focusing on that opposed to externalizing all of my pain, then that's where the power is. That's where the true growth takes place. And I got to understand that then.
What book flipped the switch for you too? Like, you must have a few that, you know, never leave your sight type of thing, right?
Yeah. So then I was fortunate that I had a good buddy when I played in my second year pro, playing here in Cleveland for the Monsters. His name's Greg Malden. You know how it is, Doug. You don't keep in touch with everybody that you play with. Heck, you keep in touch with 1%, 2%, you know. And he's one guy to this day. We still keep in touch. We're like brothers. And he had suggested to me then, because he had gone over to Europe at the same time, the book Mind Gym by Mac Castevens, I believe. And so I just started diving into that. And it just got me to understand my mind a little bit more. It gave some perspective shifts, which I'm sure you could agree that a lot of hockey players need that. They need to have a shift in perspective. And if you can provide that to somebody, you're changing their lives, you know? And so that was that. I read The Champion's Mind, which I actually took more from in comparison to Mind Gym. I wouldn't be able to tell you so much because this is 10, 11 years ago now, 12 years. And the book Relentless was good by Tim Grover. Mm-hmm. But what I began to recognize in all of these books is that there's so much talk on what to do, and there wasn't nearly enough talk on how to do it. So there's a lot of information, and I think it's overwhelming when I don't have a clear path on, okay, how can I be that? How can I be the closer? How can I be mentally resilient? Even though I already was, I wasn't aware of the fact that I was, and so I needed some guidance on how I could really turn the mental game into my advantage, because at that time it was abusing me. And it actually, not unfortunately, I'm at peace with it. It took my divorce for me to then pick up a book that has shifted everything in my life. And that book is called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. That really got me to fully understand my mind, my thoughts, where they come from, and understanding that I have the power and the ability to control them and select my own thoughts. And that's been a game changer for me.
I just read it 2 weeks ago.
I'm happy.
Yeah, no, it's a very good read. It was fantastic. So I hear you on that subject. So what did you do? What are the actions you took? Like once you become aware, and I see on your website, right, that awareness is number one, and awareness is number one in my work as well. Right, but there's still action that needs to be taken, right? Purpose that needs to be identified.
Yeah, I think for so many people, it's getting clear on not only who you are as a person separate from sport, but then in hockey is being honest with yourself about the type of player that you are, where you're trying to get to. And I think all too often, not enough players are being intentional with just that right there, which creates clarity. And with the clarity, the direction comes. Waking up with purpose, knowing, okay, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to go. This is where I want to take the sports. Now here's my action steps. So the what and the how become a lot easier when that why is strong enough, And so after reading that book, I also tapped into a creative meditation and manifestation book, which presented me with like daily tasks or daily activities to do, writing things down, drawing, just really helping you to cultivate presence, to be in the moment and understanding when you've been distracted, when you've kind of veered from the here and now, and how to quickly recognize and get back to right now.
Yeah, little tricks, like an Apple Watch almost, right? Like that awareness, you got to keep that thing ticking all the time, right?
Yeah, and it's emotionally exhausting at times, to constantly be trying to combat the negative thoughts, because they're going to come. 60 to 70 more thousand thoughts per day. In the subconscious, it's relentless. It's just going to keep going and going and going. And so through meditation, that was like the first step. Reading the book, The Untethered Soul, tapping into this workbook, really got me to slow down. And when you're in meditation, it's not about doing it right or wrong or trying to figure it all out. It's just about making the unconscious conscious again, and once you can do that, then you recognize when you're not here and now. And when you're not here, you're lost in suffering or worry about the future or depression about the past,
Or worry about, oh, geez, I got to take 10 minutes to do my meditation. You get to that point where it becomes so silly, right? The thing that makes you better, and it does, and 10 breaths into it, you'll know it does. You still fight against it. There's still that little bit of resistance to making sure you take care of yourself, because you worry about so many other things, right? That aren't important.
Yeah, literally. About 98% of them aren't important. But what I found is that so much of it is that we've been so conditioned and programmed into a particular type of way. When we start doing different things and stepping into the unknown, our mind it's wants to keep you safe. So those thoughts are going to start to arise when you're stepping into something new, and it's not a bad thing. Your mind's just trying to keep you safe. Thank you, but I'm going to go and venture into that because that's where the growth is. And you could attest to that too. Once you tap into the meditation, the patience and poise I played on the ice with was at a whole another level because of it. And had I not done that, I wouldn't have had that season. And that was the best season I had during my career when I first started tapping into the more mindfulness stuff.
Well, there's no comfort in growth. You can't get any growth on the physical stage without being tremendously uncomfortable. No. I certainly agree with that. And leveraging the mind and the 95% that controls you is just such a safe bet. And that's why it confuses me why there's that resistance. I guess it's the human psyche, right? Causes that resistance, or we don't. Well, Laurie, this is where we step into your boat. We don't believe we deserve it. We walk around feeling like there's something wrong with us. And as soon as you feel that wrongness, every negative emotion hits you, every single one, not just one, because when you feel anger, you feel all the negative emotions, right? When you feel fear. So it's exactly the same thing as I'm talking about. This is going to be great to synchronize these messages and figure out how the pieces fit together here to help people, right? Because it's not that complicated, right? It's complex. But I don't think it's that complicated. Now, do you have a system and a process you take people through, Jacob?
Yeah, well, if they're willing to go there, because it's deep work. You've got to be intentional with it. And I think in these times, everybody wants that quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that's not the thing. You're trying to. So when I first started this, I was 27 years old. I'm trying to overcome the previous 27 years of my life and all of the thought patterns that were present. And it's not going to be an overnight thing. And I began to understand that. So if I have a player that is willing to go back, because I think so much of this is, inner child stuff, or for hockey players, it's when you were playing youth hockey and how you were spoken to by your coach and the performance anxiety that comes along with that, or no different than stuff with your parents. So if I get a player that's willing to go back, you got to sit in meditation to go back to those different experiences and allow the emotions that came up then, because they're in there. You just got to stay with the visual of it for long enough before you start to trigger that energy to be moving, And once we do that, my opinion is that you sit with it, right? You allow that energy to move. You start breathing intentionally deep into your belly. And then if it was a coach saying something to you, can you become the coach and re-coach yourself? No different than if it's the inner child. Can you see the way your parents spoke to you? And can you become them and speak to yourself differently, and do that consistently enough to when you go back to that experience, the energy doesn't shift? That's a sign to me that it's working and that you're clearing that blockage that isn't allowing you to be in the present moment in hockey or in life.
Now, in your experience, how was it? Like, people listen to this and it's like an unwinding process, right? So for you, I guess there was stuff that you had to deal with just like I did, right? Like, there was probably a list of things. Like, are you okay to share any of those things?
Oh, brother, I'm free to, I'm open to share really anything. I've put myself out there in regards to my story, and I don't intend on stopping at any time.
Okay, good. Excellent. I'm on the record, by the way, with the class action litigation against the Canadian Hockey League. I was the only NHL player to join that class action litigation and be deposed. And so my story's sitting there, waiting for something to happen so that, all this talent that never made it because of really bad shit, like the stuff that happened to these other guys is like so far worse than mine. You could tell why they never got a shot to play in the NHL. They ran away. They had to run away, right?
Yeah,
so really, really sad story. So, like, I'm open to. I've been out there in the public eye, but some people are, some people aren't. So, go ahead and share like your perspective and your experience.
Yeah. So, going all the way back, I think I'm aware of what you're speaking about with I believe I sent you the article, but nonetheless, going back to when we had just moved to California. My mother's brother had passed away, leaving behind his wife and 3 children. And the wife wasn't fit to be a mom at all, let alone a single parent. So we then decided to adopt my 3 cousins. So I've got 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and now we're bringing in 3 more. So we got a family of 10 and a tiny little house in California. But what my parents didn't know at that time, because you don't know unless you ask. And even if they would have asked, I don't know if they would have been told the truth or not, is that all 3 of those cousins coming to live with us now had all been sexually abused. And the eldest of the 3 would have been 16, 17 years old, then began doing those things to me from the ages of 5 to 7. I got it all here. I've done a lot of work so that the energy's not shifting anymore, but I can still think about the things. And I remember so vividly one time me telling him that if he didn't stop doing what he was doing, that I was going to tell my parents. And I'm 5 years old, 6 years old, looking up. He's very tall. He was the monster. He was the monster to me, you know. And he said, well, if you do that, I'm going to beat you up. And I took that as truth. That was truth to me. And that fear that sentence put into my mind and into my heart led me to never saying anything. I remember walking up the stairs, looking straight at him, thinking, I want to go tell my parents. I want to go and tell my parents about what's happening to me. But I know it wouldn't have happened, but that's what my mind was telling me. I know that by what he said, I'm going to get beat up after. And I didn't want that. You know, he'd already done so much to me. I don't want him to beat me up now. And so I never said anything. And then I had no help, no guidance or anything for 18 years. And now when I started getting help, I was under an NHL contract. And, you know, kind of fast forward from those experiences to when I moved away from home when I was 15 to play juniors, just outside Portland in the Northern Pacific Junior Hockey League. I don't even know if it's around anymore, but, you know, you move away, you get introduced to a little bit of popularity in that town, a little bit of fame, so to speak, and then alcohol and women, you know, and that's where the domino fell. Towards the end of the year is when I started to drink a little bit. It wasn't anything too crazy then, but as a 15-year-old that was experiencing a lot of depression, that needed love and connection and attention, needed to be, you know, seen and heard and understood. The emotional swings I would go through back then was very evident of what I, you know, went through as a child. And then that was my junior year of high school. I went home for my senior year, so shy, so timid, didn't hang out with anybody. I was known as the hockey player in high school. I actually got voted the most likely to be famous, which was funny.
That's great.
Yeah. And then the very next year, I moved away again to play in the NAHL. And the team I went to was notorious for the partying team, but they were always winning, you know. So the Texas Tornado is who I played for. And that is when everything kind of went downhill in terms of my personal life with the drinking, smoking, chewing tobacco, partying. But my biggest enabler, guys, was how I was performing on the ice. I was still able to go out there and be the guy, you know, and get the points and, you know, lead the team to victories and to the playoffs and everything. And so in my mind, nothing was wrong because of the game that I love. I was performing at such a high level.
Oh, it's going on right now. It's about probably 50%. I've got all the data on retiring and when players have to, you know, how long it takes for them to leave the game, divorce rates. Like it like the story you're telling right now it is beautiful because it at least brings it to light so that other guys can maybe step out and say the same thing.
Yeah.
That it got out of control, right? It wasn't linear. Okay, this thing isn't linear. It's up and down. You become an asshole, and then you realize something, and then you become an asshole, and you know it seems to be that way, right? I hear that commonly.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's interesting. I was performing all the time. I was performing on the ice and I was performing off the ice, and I was certainly lost. I had no identity. I didn't know who I was. You know, I was lost in people pleasing. I got my happiness from my teammates being happy with me. If I got a text from a teammate, "Hey, Newts, what are you doing tonight?" Oh, that took me so high, and I lived with that. And then again, the high that came in the game was coming because I was the guy. I was power play guy, scoring goals. And it was just everything was just so high, you know.
The level of flow is so great, right? When you go to the rink and you go out and you score a couple of goals, and it happens a few times in a row, and it's like all of a sudden you just get swept away by this thing, right? And if you don't have a solid basis or somebody to call, right? Or somebody to reach out, like just to be able to call instantaneously, no hesitation. Doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. you need somebody to be able to take that phone call, because that's one thing I remember never having, right? I just never had it.
Yeah, I think what a lot of us lacked, whether we're men or women, is a positive male role model, somebody that we could look up to. I know I didn't have that, and if I did have that, what an incredible thing that would have been to, like you said, to just give a call to somebody. Hey, I need to talk to you. Would I have done it? I don't know if I would have done it.
Well, I had those type of friends. I think you had those type of friends too, but they didn't do this professionally. They weren't doing what you do today professionally to help somebody else, because there wasn't as many of them, like we didn't realize that it was a necessary thing. And so, but there's still hesitation by the confident athlete who could be way better because their ego's in the way. And if they're listening to this, or their mom's listening to this, always get that other perspective, and Jacob, you're a good guy to have them chat with about this. So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I think such a big thing is that us as parents, I'm a parent myself. I've got 2 kids, but even though they're still so young, I can sense already that they don't want to hear from me. So they need an outside voice. And I think we as parents think that because we're the parents, our children are always going to hear us and they're always going to listen to us. But what I've found in my parenting journey is that they don't need the next story from your lived experiences. Sometimes what they need is for us to just close our mouths and hold space for them to speak on what they are experiencing without us denying that, and so if we could get to that as well, I think kids would be a lot more open to speaking with their parents, but parents are just constantly talking,
I have a comment about that.
Please.
If I may.
Yes.
The reason children don't go to their parents and as they get older, you'll find that communication less and less. The real reason for that is they do not want to put their parents under any more stress. So if you have really stressful if you have a stressful environment at home, or there's been a divorce or a separation, they know things aren't, perfectly together. They tend to shy off because they don't want to burden you. And that's why it's very important, I know, that parents reassure the kids that you are the parent. You're not their friend. You're the strong person. You're the leader in the family. You're the man. And they never have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So that's just from my experience, because I work with kids and all the time. And that's what I have discovered is the biggest reason, because I'll ask the question. And I have people who send me their kids because they want them to have somebody outside to talk to. But what I do is I work with the parent as well to get the parent in the right place so that I don't have to see the kids anymore and they can go tell mom and dad everything.
Amen to that.
Excellent story. How do you handle those situations like you talked about, driving the age that people become more aware down, but on the way that the system works is if you want to talk to those people, you need to have partners who are in the medical field or in some type of space that you're not, like in the medical field, psychology, you know what I mean? How do you overcome that? Do you work with anybody that is a specialist in that area yet?
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to Jacob. Just
Okay.
about, because you want to drive the age that they become aware, right? You want to drive that down by the sounds of it, right?
Yeah, certainly. And I think through, easy to apply and applicable tools that can be achieved, but so I had worked with somebody in terms of my own stuff. I spoke, talk therapy for 3 years, very intensely. It took another catastrophic event in my life for me to awaken to the fact that I need help. God bless my ex-wife, the mother of my children. Had she not been stayed with me after a decision that I made and still believed in me and ultimately guided me to jump into the office with her, I don't know if this would be happening,
Wow.
So forever love her, forever grateful for her. So now currently I don't work with anybody. I just really rely on my lived experiences and the healing that I've done through the books that I've read, the programs that I've joined, to really uncover what has been at the depths of my being for so long, that, all the layers around the hardening that, that life kind of creates for you, the society, the situations we find ourselves in, really hardens you, closes your heart off to a deeper understanding of yourself. And through my learnings, the things that I've learned, I've understood that outside is more or less a reflection of what's going on within you, And so if you are looking out and you see negativity and chaos, well, it's just almost like a mirror, So again, if you're willing to go to you and start to navigate you, examine and analyze yourself before you cast any judgment on the outside world, then you're able to see the outside world from a clearer lens, a deeper place of truth.
I find that most people have to be flying Mach 5 into the ground,
yes,
before they're ready to invest in themselves, almost,
Yeah, I think that's the most unfortunate thing, is that I'm in agreement with you. It takes catastrophe for people to wake up, and at times it's still not going to be enough, and
how do we flip that switch quicker? So that's the puzzle I've been working on for quite some time, and I'm still working on it. And, Laurie gets it, you get it. I think that's one of the switches we're looking for, right?
Yeah. I go ahead, Laurie.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I hear that, I reflect on my first year playing with guys that had careers in the NHL. And, I had always had the $1 million legs. I was told, you got $1 million legs, $1 million legs. My skating ability was at a level that's allowed me to get the opportunities that I got, but what I lacked was the $1 million mindset, And so having my teammates coming to me, Newts, you've got so much more. What are you doing? Why are you the last one here and the first one to leave? I was so focused on making sure that my wife was doing well at home, entertaining her, that I lost sight of what I was there for, and so even though they were trying to wake me up, my experiences were what was going to be my greatest teacher. And it took, again, 2 more catastrophic things within my 20s. The first one was, I'll admit it, I put it out there. I cheated on my wife. I had an affair, and she found out just a week later. The whole story about how she found out is insane. It's very, it was intense. It happened during a game. I had gotten sent down from the AHL Monsters to their CHL affiliate because they didn't have an East Coast team. And that team was playing in Allen, Texas, which is a town over from Frisco, Texas, where I played juniors, where I was all about partying and meeting all the women. Now I'm just a town over. I got right back into the same habits, contacting people that I knew, and made my decision. And that woman found my wife during a game and told her face to face. And I remember warm-ups when
a movie.
Yeah, it was intense. And anytime I had family in the stands, I wanted to know, I felt a lot more comfortable if I knew where they were at, if I could see them. And so I saw her during warm-ups waving at her. First period, there she is. Second period, she's not there. 5 minutes in, she's still not there. I'm like, bathroom? No. Line for food? There's no way it's that long.
Oh, no.
Made the connection. I was like, oh, I need to check my phone after the second period, but I can't because I know what's waiting for me. And so game ends, check my phone, boom, there it is. In the locker room crying, just felt some deep, deep pain. And, I took ownership of it immediately. And that's when the very intensive therapy began, even deeper for myself. And then we went through couples therapy. And then now fast forward to my first season going over to Europe by myself really quick. That decision that I made got me to understand that the choices I'm making in my life are having an immediate impact on those closest to me, the ones I love most.
That's an observation there. That's perspective, right?
Yeah. And then now fast forward, this would be 5 years. We had a tough year in the Czech Republic. I didn't have such a good season. I had this mind then. I just wasn't aware of the awareness within me, and I didn't have the ability then to leave hockey at the rink, go home and be dad and be husband. and I brought it home. Never emotionally abusive or physically or anything. I was just not this bubbly person that she was so accustomed to, you know? And so we went home after that season, and she said, I'm not coming next year. I'm not coming back over to Europe. So you have a decision to make. You either go by yourself, me and the kids are staying, or you finish your career and you get a normal job. Well, that wasn't an option because hockey's all I've ever done my whole life. I've never had a job, you know? And so I made the decision to go to Finland, back to Finland. And then 2 months into that season, she had decided she didn't want to be with me anymore. Now I'm on an island in a foreign country, 5,000 miles away from my kids. I just wanted my kids. I wanted to hug them. I wanted to love on them.
Excruciating pain.
Yeah. The amount of tears that came, I was broken then. And then I realized, I don't want to allow what happened inside of me come at like the expense of somebody else's decision. You know what I mean? Or somebody else's actions made me feel the way I felt. That's not okay with me. And that's when I really turned within. And then The Untethered Soul was the first book I picked up. After 10 days, I was able to regain slight focus enough to read a book. And that book is what catapulted me into a deeper level of healing that when I was going through talk therapy, never gave to me.
I look forward to, maybe having you on another show to talk about the meditation process you're using and what you found, because I'm very interested in that. So that's cool, huh, Laurie? That could fit into the health and wellness part of the show too.
Totally. Yes, totally. And when you talked about the sexual abuse, I also am a survivor as well. But when it happens to our men, when it happens to our boys, and I worked with tons of clients who, to process that, but there's an extra veil of shame that comes when it's our guys, because guys are supposed to be able to take care of themselves. That's conditioning too, right? So when women are sexually abused, well, it's kind of like, oh yeah, well, that's normal. But when it happens to our boys, the shame level is intense. So when you shared that, and thank you for sharing that, because of course we have two famous hockey players here in Alberta, Sheldon Kennedy and Theo Fleury, who wrote books about their experience, and they were sexually molested by their coaches. And so within the framework of the hockey family, there's a whole lot more of that than anybody realizes. And it's like a deep, dark secret. But I'm from the East Coast, and we have a saying out there, you'll only ever be as sick as your secrets. So for you to come clean with that is huge. And also the infidelity, that's pretty common in the family of whoever, the brotherhood, whether it's police, hockey players, it doesn't matter. And it's not really about sex, actually, is it? It's about breaking promises. So everything that you've talked about, Jacob, I can connect to. So my work was to go to the bottom line of everything, and that would be the lack of self-love and the lack of self-worth. And when we're there, we don't make very good decisions. So that's the work that we've done. Actually, how old are you now?
35.
35.
Yeah.
Well, I've been doing this longer than you've been alive.
You're seasoned.
Totally. 40 years.
Wow. Good for you. That's I think it's the most important stuff, and especially, going back to what you said about men, it's even more difficult for men to speak. Shameful. And what I've learned about myself in terms of the weight that I'm not carrying anymore in regards to these experiences, because I've been to my childhood home and I've sat in the bathroom where so many things happened to me, sat in meditation and just went right back there, and nothing shifted. But there's no shame for me because it wasn't anything I did. It was done to me. The shame,
but a lot of people don't get that right away.
Of course. Any shame I feel now comes from the decision I made to step out on my wife. That was me. I did that, There's shame there, certainly. But I just want so passionately for men, everybody, but men more so, to understand that it is the greatest strength in facing yourself and giving yourself permission to finally let those tears stroll down your face and what
Absolutely.
a energy that is. I feel
Absolutely.
lighter every single time.
Well, that's why we were given them.
Well, it's such an, you know, you're absolutely right, and it's a good way to end it. It's important that men shed the tears, right? Because if they don't come out, they just go deeper in, right? And so like that's a great way to finish this one. Really appreciate you coming on, Jacob, and we'll have you on the health and wellness show too. This is such an important message for our athletes and their families. You know, it's incredible. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. What an honor, and I look forward to the next one.
All right. Thank you, Jacob, and it was great listening to you guys banter back and forth. I always learn lots when I'm listening, because when I'm talking, I'm not, I'm not learning much. So I appreciated the opportunity today to have you guys be able to carry the conversation, and I really enjoyed myself. So thank you very much. All right, we're going to go now. We're just going to take our show out tomorrow, Wellness Wednesday. Actually, Jacob, I broadcast 5 days a week normally. On Tuesday, I do 2 shows, one with Doug, but we have our own show every morning at 9 o'clock Mountain Time, and it's live, and we have a theme every single day. So I could see Jacob on Mondays, because Mondays is self-care, self-improvement, healing. Tuesdays is finance with Ramin Modiri, but we did have a musician show up today, so we're very flexible. And Wednesday's wellness. Thursday, we cater to the Indigenous community, veterans community, specialty communities, the disabled community. And by the way, this week, Doug, we have a panel with Stephen Beardwood and Jill Younghusband and a friend of hers. We're going to honor the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
Good.
So it happens to be just on our third.
That's Veterans House, and Younghusband is Canadian Armed Forces. Good.
That is correct, yes, and a friend of hers. So, and then Friday was just like a fun day. Anything's up for grabs. So it could be an artist, a musician, an author, a single mom bringing up a great family. I mean, it could be anything. All right. So fun factor on Friday. So thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Laurie.
And we'll be right back.
Thank you, Laurie.